Hello, I'm Bonnie Urbay. Welcome to the Contrary, a discussion of news and social trends from diverse perspectives. Up first, the race is on. Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton is on a bus tour through battleground states, courting white working-class voters, but not before taking her place in history.
Tonight, we've reached a milestone in our nation's march toward a more perfect union. The first time that a major party has nominated a woman for president. Standing here as my mother's daughter and my daughter's mother, I'm so happy this day has come. I'm happy for grandmothers and little girls and everyone in between. I'm happy for boys and men, because when any barrier falls in America, it clears the way for everyone.
Chelsea Clinton introduced her mother, noting the significance of the moment.
People ask me all the time, how does she do it? How does she keep going amid the sound and the fury of politics? Here's how. It's because she never, ever forgets who she's fighting for.
I have spent my career and my being a mom and a grandmother telling young girls, you can be whoever you want to be. And now we really can see that that's true. It is really historical.
From former President Bill Clinton, President Barack Obama, VP Joe Biden, the women of the House and Senate, and Bernie Sanders, as well as stars of stage and screen, all showed up to say, I'm with her. But divisions were still evident.
Bernie Sanders was the most progressive candidate in this election. I'm not going to speak for all of millennial females, but that's what I personally wanted to see in a candidate for president of the United States. And while I would love to have a female president, Hillary just doesn't fit the bill.
I think one of the things that Hillary is very good at is being gracious and bringing people in. And when you have a divided political anything, whether it's an issue or whether it's a race, she knows how to listen to what the other side needs and tell them she needs them too. I think she is doing that now, and as we move forward, I think that is what will continue to bring us together so we can defeat Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, while there may be economic upset, he has not addressed them in any way. Hillary Clinton has. And she has a program and a plan to create jobs and to increase their wages. That's what they care about. All Donald Trump has talked about is building a wall, creating hateful divisions, and having people blame other folks for their economic circumstances. Hillary Clinton does have a vision for the future. That's what's going to attract everyone, including white males.
Hispanics need to come out and vote. If we come out and vote, in my own California, if Latinos came and voted, they'd be probably about 35% of all of the vote. Latinos are also important to vote in some of those swing states, even a 3 or 4% Latino vote. If they vote our way, if they vote for Hillary, for example, will determine the next president.
Some Clinton supporters fear sexism remains a major concern for Secretary Clinton.
Most of us as women hear dog whistles all the time in terms of what, the different ways that folks look at Hillary. But she's up to it. I mean, she's tough and strong and feisty and a wonderful, wonderful woman. And I love that she's not only a fighter, but a caring mom and caring grandma, and is the right person to be in the White House.
People are holding Hillary Clinton to a higher standard because she is a woman. And, they're talking about how she laughs, they're talking about how she speaks, and I think that she should be held to the same standards as Trump. Certainly when you do that, she is far and above more qualified than Trump is for this position.
So, Debra Carnahan, which convention did more to elevate its candidate?
No doubt about it, the Democrats. I thought the GOP convention did an incredible job at dealing with some of the reality that faces our nation today, especially with national security and the economy.
The Republican Party was not even trying to elevate its candidate. That was not its strategy. Its strategy was to tear down the other candidate through fear, exclusion, and a celebration of demagoguery.
I think we had two conventions that were fear-filled conventions, one being the fear of Donald Trump, the other being fear of changes and the threats to America. I think it probably was a tie at some point.
Wait a second. Do you think that the Democrats was fear-filled? I haven't heard anybody say that.
I think the context in which Hillary Clinton gave her speech last night spent a lot of time focusing on Donald Trump and the fact that we should be scared of him being president. So that's fear in my mind.
Yeah, but don't you think, I mean, most of the speeches there, at least fully the first two nights, were all about family and children, and even she talked about, that we're better united and we can do anything united. And it was much closer to Ronald Reagan's Morning in America than, as she called, Trump's Midnight in America.
Yeah, in my mind, it was reactive to the Republican convention in terms of responding by showing people that, at least her speech, showing people that Donald Trump isn't the person that should be president, and she should be.
Can she win?
Wow. Okay, yeah, she can win, and I totally disagree with you. That's not what I heard last night. I heard a lot of positive. I think she can't.
Last night, we should explain, we're taping
I'm sorry,
on Friday
I was
afternoon.
at the convention for 4 days and very late last night. But that's not what I heard on the floor listening to her. I heard about working class people. I heard about jobs. I heard about coming together. I heard her address Bernie Sanders and his supporters and being inclusive. Sure, she took some jabs at Donald Trump, but you're going to. She'd be nuts not to do that, right? Versus what I believe is that in the Republican convention, all I heard from everybody was Hillary, 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 lock up Hillary, 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 and fear. So I heard a lot of positive last night. But she is right to point out differences. You've got to point out differences between yourself and your opponent.
All right. In her acceptance speech, she didn't talk too much about being a woman, but the last couple of weeks of the campaign, she has talked a lot about appealing to female voters, way more, for example, than Barack Obama in 2008 reached out to black voters. Why is that? And is it going to work for her?
I think it will absolutely work. As a millennial woman who's currently running for office,
In New York,
or
the state legislature.
Yes. I can say that the historical nature of Hillary's candidacy is not lost on me or my contemporaries. In my home state of New York, for example, only 25% of the state legislature is women. New York has never had a woman governor. New York City has never had a woman mayor. So this nomination is an incredible moment for us, and it's bringing to the fore.
But why does she feel, as a Democrat, that it's safer for her to reach out to women and say, I'm a woman's woman in many ways, than he felt saying, I'm a president, African, or I hope to be an African American president, whereas he tried to kind of, vanilla-ize everything when it came to race. Yeah, he didn't want to split the vote like that.
Yeah, I got the sense that President Obama, being the first African-American president, made it clear in his campaign that he was not focusing on being the first African-American president. And I think in this case we're seeing something very different, which is, again, the first woman president is historically significant and it can't be diminished. But honestly, that bar is very high to clear, whether it's on equal pay, whether it's on paid leave. And we heard a lot of talk about that last night, but I still don't know how you pay for a national paid leave program. I still don't know how you pay for child care in a way that makes sense for the budget in the deficit. We didn't hear about entitlements. We didn't hear about a lot of things. So I think the woman angle is important. I don't know that necessarily plays that she gets votes from that. You've even heard Nancy Pelosi say that in the context of voting for a woman because she's a woman.
Yeah, I think it's overkill at this point. She's definitely...
Will she get any Republican votes? Do you think this convention helped her get any Republican female votes in particular?
Absolutely not. I don't think it helped her with anyone on the Republican side whatsoever. I just think it was more of the same with the people who were already going to vote for Hillary Clinton.
Because Tim Kaine, her vice presidential candidate, said, for those of you, the party of Lincoln, the real party of Lincoln, there's a home for you in the Democratic Party, just like his father-in-law, who was the Republican governor of Virginia.
Well, I think they're going to try to get some of those Bill Kristol-style votes in terms of saying, oh, you're so anti your candidate that why don't you come and vote for us? which I think is going to hurt a lot of Republicans who can't come on board with the candidate. And it's only going to at this point in the game, either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump is going to be the president of the United States. And Republicans need to come on board regardless of the differences that they have at this point and realize that, they need to put their own petty differences aside and, move along with their party.
Will she get the Bernie Sanders voters? I mean, we know she'll get some. What percentage will she get? She liked to talk about the fact that I think after she conceded to Barack Obama, that she worked really hard and got about 80% of her voters voted for him in the general election. Right. So will she be able to do the same with Bernie Sanders voters?
I don't know if she'll get as high as he did. One difference would be she capitulated a lot earlier when she saw that she was not going to be the nominee and got on board and did a lot more unification prior to the convention, so there's more time there for her to do that. But I will tell you, being in the hall last night, that there were a lot of Bernie people there who were saying Hillary and feeling comfortable.
But there was also one guy who wouldn't shut up through the whole thing.
I know, you're always going to get one of those, aren't you?
Your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting how she spent a lot of time focusing with the speeches even last night on Republicans and independents, and a little less so on shoring up her own base, which is the Bernie Sanders, which I think are still a big question for her as to whether she's going to pull in millennials this election.
Okay, she's reaching out to white men. Does she really need them? Can you get them? When you have made such outreach to diverse groups and to women, obviously she's getting white college-educated men. There was a Rasmussen poll out on Friday, which normally leans extremely Republican. She's ahead of him by a point, 43%, for the first time in that poll, 43%, 42%. So can she get white men? Can she get typical white Republican men while also reaching out to everybody but them?
Right. I think it's a tough sell. I think she's working it. I think she's doing what she can. Again, national security still remains this sort of primary issue for a lot of voters, whether they be educated white men or less educated white men. And I think she's going to continue.
More than jobs?
I still think so, yeah.
Well, look, Hillary Clinton has said that she wants to end the coal industry in the United States. And
she recanted that.
Who works there? Men, and they care about providing for their families. And I think that they are not going to have a short memory when it comes to that, because when you make that statement, regardless if you recant it or not, in a leadership position, who makes that statement that says, I want to hurt this group of Americans and put you out of work, and so you don't have an income for your families anymore? And Hillary Clinton said that when she said she wanted to get rid of that industry. And I think that they're not going to forget that when it comes to which candidate has their best interest. And someone like Hillary Clinton, who made that statement, I think it's going to serve in their memory for quite some time.
Well, I think that this is the moment for diversity and inclusion, and that includes everybody. And it's worth noting that moderate Republicans, several of them, John McCain's top advisors, for example, many former members of the W. Bush administration, have all jumped on board with Hillary. And I think that that's really going to make an impact, because what people are looking for right now is somebody who has the qualifications and the smarts to get the job done, to make real policy changes that can make an actual difference in the lives of people. And that's going to resonate with everybody.
How well did her remake work? Is she a mom and a grandma first, or is she an ambitious woman who's been angling for this for the last 25 years?
Okay. If a man wants to get to a certain point in life, then, you're smart and you're methodical and, wow, you're just very disciplined. If a woman aspires to something, she's ambitious. Okay. That aside, I just want to say that I don't think that there's a lot of wiggle room for remake. I don't, because she's been in public life so long, and she's been on that high wire so long. But as she said last night, she's not comfortable with the public as much as she is the private and getting things done. I think it helped for Chelsea to come out and talk. I think it helps to hear some of these stories. The millennials think they know her, but they really don't. They just know bits and pieces of stories they've heard or incidents. So I thought that was very good to give a background in where she's come from and who she is inside.
Do you think she did a good job of remaking herself? Did the convention do a good job?
Absolutely not. Hillary Clinton is a career politician. She represents the status quo and 8 years of a failed status quo. So if people are looking for more of the same in terms of, economy that's hurting, people who are out of work, a failed national security and foreign policy, the largest terror attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. So if you want to continue with that style of status quo, then Hillary Clinton is your candidate. If you're looking for change, someone who's going to come in and shake things up and is going to put America back to work and make America safe, that is Donald Trump.
All right, but let me throw out there, unemployment is below 5%. It's the lowest.
But how many of those people have stopped looking for work?
But wait a minute.
So the numbers are a bit skewed.
Donald Trump is promising, among other things, to revive the coal industry when the world is turning away from coal. And the fact is that, in the last 20 years, solar energy, wind energy, all the replaceable sustainable kinds of energy are overtaking coal. Why revive an industry that has been dying on its own anyway?
Well, there's still a need for it. There is.
Do we have gas prices? I just bought gas for $1.99 a gallon this week.
You always have to be moving forward and sort of looking for what's next in terms of technology and energy. And I think that Donald Trump is all about that. But I don't think you're going to be able to just, wipe an entire industry off the map.
All right. Last word, you guys. We have not yet elected, obviously, our first female president. And yet, going back to the 60s, Indira Gandhi, and more recently, Britain for the second time, Theresa May, and Margaret Thatcher, and the list goes on, and Costa Rica and Brazil and Argentina, they've all had female country leaders. Should we be ashamed of ourselves?
Yes.
Your thoughts?
No, I don't think we should be ashamed because we're here. The moment has come. We're ready for it. But to get wide swaths of people for women candidates all across the country, to get a lot of people to love you, to trust you, how are we going to do that? We're going to see that happen this election cycle, and we are ready.
All right. Let us know what you think. Please follow me on Twitter at Bonnie Urbay. Now, families and politics. Although Republican nominee Donald Trump made a big point of displaying, even showing off his family at his party's convention, Democrats talked more about family issues at theirs, from First Lady Michelle Obama describing her daughters playing with their dogs on the White House lawn, a house built by slave labor, to Bill Clinton's description of his life with Hillary and Chelsea when Chelsea was a baby. Family politics and issues were front and center. There was also a bit of a family war launched when Chelsea Clinton, speaking at a Glamour and Facebook conversation at the DNC, was asked about Ivanka Trump's claim. Ivanka said her father would fight for pay equity for women and access to quality child care last week. But Chelsea asked,
how would your father do that, given it's not something he's spoken about? There are no policies on any of those fronts that you just mentioned on his website, not last week, not this week. So I think the how question is super important in politics as it is in life. So it really matters to me that my mom in this election consistently has told you how she's going to do everything, whether that's on gun control or protecting a woman's right to choose or any of the things that we've talked about. She also tells you how she's going to pay for it.
So Amber, first Ivanka and then Bill. What to do with Bill. Ivanka, why did she say that? Why did she say that when he's never talked about it? And we talked about this last week, by the way, on the show. And he has no track record, and he hasn't put anything out there about the women's issues she mentioned.
Well, look, I think Ivanka did an incredible job. She had an amazing speech, and I think she spoke from the heart about what is important to her father.
But she said that he was going to help women with pay equity, with access to quality child care. There's no evidence of that. Is she lying?
Absolutely not. I think she is saying that what matters is what Donald Trump has done as a businessman when he has, hired numerous amounts of women in leadership positions. He's helped them when it comes to maternity leave and taking care of them, and in terms of equal pay as well.
She's not talking about his family and the way he treats people in his company.
No, I'm talking about his
She's talking about in the general election what he will do
No, but
for
you were
voters.
saying that what is the background, and I was saying that was the background. I think the controversy here, especially when Chelsea Clinton went on the Glamour Facebook interview, was that she failed to mention that her mother, Hillary Clinton, when she was a U.S. Senator, paid women 72 cents to the dollar for the men on the staff. So that's where I think the controversy lies, is why are you not saying that your own mother, who is running on some of these pro-women issues, actually failed to pay women equally on her own staff?
Yeah. So I'd like to see this. There's a clip of Donald Trump in an interview a few years back talking about pregnancy, and that pregnancy is wonderful for women, and it can be wonderful for men, but it's very, very bad for business. Very bad for business. So, you know, you brought up Hillary, and she said one time that, and I think she apologized for on the Cole. I'm just so tired of Donald Trump having said things over the years that indicate who he is, and it's like, oh, that doesn't matter. I mean, that's an indication of what he feels like. It's great to have your daughter go out and talk about maternity leave, you know, and what is it, 12 weeks, 8 weeks? What is it going to be? Where is the plan? But he's on record saying it's bad for business. So I'm not going to trust somebody that thinks my pregnancy is bad for business.
I think the Trump campaign, to be perfectly honest with you, has a relatively narrow and weak policy platform. I don't think we've seen a lot of the policies that they want to put forward. I think Ivanka maybe got out a little far ahead of her dad in that respect. He has talked about pregnancy being inconvenient, so you're absolutely right in that regard. His own public statements, despite the fact that he's been very engaged.
She made it sound like he had a plan for what he was going to do for women in terms of child care.
And the data shows there was actually a petition effort going on in Ohio at the time amongst a bunch of groups trying to encourage Republicans to add paid leave and equal pay to their Republican platform at the RNC. That did not obviously occur, but the data shows that like 60% of people across the country, when they're looking at candidates, are evaluating these types of women's issues. So I think, frankly, Ivanka was eager to say something, whether or not there was actually some tie to the platform and the agenda for the Trump campaign. But I think, if anything, it puts pressure on her father to have to move an agenda in this area.
Look, Ivanka came out because Trump is 14 points down with women, and they know that.
And actually, she is ahead with married white women, which is the first time since the Reagan election of 1980 that a Democrat has led with that demographic, which is a very Republican demographic.
Exactly. And if you stand back and look at the bigger picture here, you see two young women who are both articulate and intelligent, introducing their parents who are running for president. And what that shows is that women's issues are really at the forefront of the national debate right now. And I think Ivanka knew that and wanted to leap ahead and address it. But Chelsea Clinton's criticism, how are you going to create equality, is a valid one.
All right, let's get to Bill. What to do with Bill? Is he an asset to her at this point or not anymore?
Oh, I still think he's an asset. You know, he's the big dog. And Bill's going to say things that, you know, her camp is going to go, oh, my gosh, I can't believe he said that. He's very beloved. He still is, as she said last night, the explainer-in-chief. President Obama has said that, too. I definitely think that he's an asset. I really found it interesting last night, and it did make me smile to see Senator Kaine and Secretary Clinton walking hand in hand together across the stage, and then you know, the two spouses were behind them, and it's the first time we've seen a male spouse walking behind. And I thought, wow, that's
and yet
pretty
the political
incredible.
cynic in me, I have to say, the whole time he was giving that love speech to her, the political cynic in me saw Republican ads contrasting that with him saying, I did not have sex with that woman. Are we going to see those ads?
Well, I mean, it's like what we saw at the convention was a different Bill than what we've seen in the past. And actions speak louder than words. And we saw how he treated his wife. We've seen how he treated women in the past. And I think that, you know,
and how much of a deal is Trump going to make of that in the coming months?
I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but I think that aside from millennials, the rest of the population remembers the Bill Clinton, Monica Lewinsky scandal, and how the Clintons treated Monica Lewinsky when all of that went down as well.
Jenifer, your thoughts?
Yeah,
quickly.
I think that at the end of the day, I think Bill Clinton, as the first man, wants to be called Adam. He probably won't be called Adam, but the first man will definitely be someone who is an active advisor for Hillary Clinton. Now, I think that gives people some pause, but I think we'll have to see what happens.
Your thoughts quickly.
I think it's progress. The first gentleman. I mean, I think, yes, it's uncharted territory, but it's a good thing.
All right. Be interesting to watch. That's it for this edition. Please follow me on Twitter. Visit our website, pbs.org/tothecontrary. And whether you agree or think to the contrary, see you next week.